Hello there, and a very warm welcome to Chazingdra Chats, the show where we take a stroll through the life stories of people in the Pokemon community, discovering the 6 Pokemon on their dream team along the way. I'm Charlie Merriman, Merri by name, Merri by nature, otherwise known as Chazingdra, a host and commentator for the Pokemon Video Game Championship Series, and a content creator. And this week, as every week, I very much hope my guest and I can make your day merry, because I have the pleasure of being joined by Joseph Ugarte, otherwise known as JOEUX9. Joe, how are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Pretty good. I can't complain. I mean, you know, it's another day of getting to chat about Pokemon and do Pokemon things, so how can you really complain about that, right?
Well said, Joe. Well said. For anyone who's not so familiar with you, Joe, can you give a brief introduction to yourself?
Yeah, so, you know, I've been a competitive Pokemon player since 2017, although I'd say actually good, probably more around the 2019 range, and even then, you know, maybe a little bit later. But I've been competing for about 8 years now. I live in New York, which is, you know, cool. It's my favorite state, of course, because I live here. And on top of that, too, generally besides that, like, my main interests really are just, like, in content creation, and actually been getting into fitness recently as well, which has been pretty fun and very self-fulfilling. So I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but those are kind of like the main overview things about me right now.
100%, yes. Joe and I know each other relatively well because we are both in the competitive video game space. I actually first encountered Joe, don't know if you remember this, many years ago, but because Joe coached me. So thank you for those sessions again, Joe.
I do remember that, actually. Yeah, I do. What's it called? It's funny because there are a lot of people that, like, you know, I've, like, met first through coaching, and then I meet them later, and then, you know, I end up just talking or, like, a meeting later on. But it's pretty funny, right? Like, I think coaching is a really interesting way to meet people, for sure, because you are able to make connections sometimes that you wouldn't normally make, like, until later. So you're, like, meeting people that, like, later you'll meet and, like, obviously be friends with or, like, know more, you know, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, but then since then we obviously have encountered each other at some competitive Pokemon events, which is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to just taking a deeper dive into everything that makes you tick, Joe. So shall we dive in?
Yeah, no, what's it called? Definitely looking forward to going through stuff. So
fantastic. Yeah. So let's get to know you better. Let's get to know your life story and the 6 Pokemon you're choosing for your dream team, Joe. And to kick things off, we're going to talk about, well, getting into Pokemon.
Yeah, so getting into Pokemon was a really, like, interesting thing for me. So basically, like, some parts of my life story, I guess, that are relevant to this. So I lived in Brazil for actually 2 years when I was younger, and I had lived originally in New York on the Upper West Side with my grandparents and, like, my parents until I was 8. But my dad works for the Department of State, so he had to work at the embassy in Brazil. So we ended up moving there, and I ended up going to school in Brazil. And, like, over there, like, it was really funny because at the time, you know, it was, like, just kids, you know what I mean, like, enjoying life or whatever, but everyone was, like, playing on their DSs, like, playing, I think it was Pokemon Diamond and Pearl at the time, pretty much, like, or, like, Pokemon Platinum, maybe, and I remember they would always just, like, play after school or, like, play whatever, you know what I mean, like, enjoy that stuff, and then my mom ended up being diagnosed with thyroid cancer, so she had to go back to the States to get treatment because she could get treatment in Brazil, but it was better to get it in the States in her situation. So what ended up happening was she was headed back, and obviously as a kid I don't really understand everything that's going on, but I was pretty upset that she was, like, leaving for a while at the time. And I remember she was like, "Oh, well, I'll bring you something back. Like, what do you want?" And I was like, "Oh, I would love to, like, play, like, this Pokemon game and, like, you know, on the DS or whatever." And she was like, "Okay, I'll bring it back." And then that was actually how I ended up playing my first Pokemon game, Pokemon Diamond, funny enough. So that was how I ended up getting into Pokemon, at least to begin with, you know, seeing other people play it. And then, you know, my mom bring it back when she came back from treatment. So.
Wow. Well, I'm very sorry to hear about that experience that your mum went through. And yeah, I'm sure, you know, whether you understood what was going on or not, just that long absence without your mum for a while must have been really tough.
Yeah, I think it ended up working out, like, well, like, to be honest, at the time, like, I think if I were older, I think it would have, like, it was still tough, right? I don't want to say it like it wasn't, I guess, at the time, but I felt like I had a really good support system with family, and also, too, like, the fact that it was, like, early stage caught on, it was, like, not too bad, although she did have to get her thyroid taken out. So I guess, you know, I say that, but I guess it did have severe consequences for her, I guess. But, you know, nowadays you can take medicine for a lot of things, right? So, like, she's fine.
Yeah, so. Okay. Well, at least there's that. So brings back Pokemon Diamond for you, and I mean, as soon as you play it, are you just sort of enamored?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. I mean, I didn't really know that much about Pokemon. I remember a lot of goofy things. Getting my Kadabra to level 100, hoping that it evolved at like level 100 because I didn't know how it worked. I remember brute forcing the Cynthia fight with like my Torterra, like I think like 90 times until I beat it finally, and I was so happy about it. And then I was like, now what? You know, like there was just like so many random things and memories. Oh, I remember too on the Kadabra for some reason. I thought like since Psybeam was like a special move I didn't really see on any other Pokemon, that it was like extra power on like Kadabra or whatever. I didn't know anything back then, and I remember looking at all the status moves, being like, oh, these are all terrible. I'm just gonna run all attacks, stuff like that, like just as a kid. So it was really funny.
Yeah. I think that's a familiar formula for many people playing at that age. And then going back before to the very start of what you said, so you moved when you were very young to Brazil. I mean, do you remember that being a tough time?
Honestly, like I think because I went there with both of my parents, it wasn't that bad. And I actually ended up going to an international school. So because I went to an international school, the primary language used in education was English. I was still learning Portuguese on the side, but I was able to obviously, use English. Like it was actually a very good school, of course, you know what I mean? Because when you travel and, you have a family, or what's it called? It's like a government family. I think they like obviously pay for like the schooling of the kid if the kid has to come with, right? So it was a good school. Like there's no complaints. Like literally my school commute was like our apartment was right across the street from the international school. And it was, and that school, I remember it was from like I think like preschool all the way until like college, I'm pretty sure, which was crazy. It was like literally the whole, I mean, it never mattered for me, but I remember too, a completely random part of it too. The food there was like really good. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, international school. It was really good. Like I remember there just being like a whole array of like food you could pick. This is probably why I got fat, to be honest, at first. Like, to be honest. But like literally like there's like steak, like mashed potatoes, rice, like I'm saying like really, really good food. Like I was impressed. I'm like, damn, I'm like, this is really, really good, But yeah, and then that's probably why I came back fat to the USA. Actually, that's kind of funny though, because you would assume like when you leave the United States, you would actually like lose some weight, but it was like the other way around. So.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, as with so many questions, so many of them, I guess I got more than I bargained for with that. So thank you for illuminating us with that. Great. Well, now it's time to introduce what's going to be the first Pokemon on your dream team. So as a reminder, everyone, the aim here is not for Joe to build the most competitively viable team in any way, though he can do that if he so chooses. It's just the Pokemon that have been the most special to Joe over the years, and he can define that for himself in whichever way he wants. I have no idea what they are. He's chosen them in advance. So Joe, tell us what's going to be Pokemon number 1.
Yeah, so the first Pokemon I actually want to say is Hydreigon. So this one is purely just from like like when I was like a kid, I looked at this Pokemon, I'm like, this Pokemon's sick. It's like, you know what I mean? Like super cool. So I'm kind of going in order of like, from like least favorite of my favorites to like most favorite, by the way. So that's the order I'm doing this in. But it's just a really cool design. Like I just really like, and I remember I have like very core memories in like Pokemon Black and White 2 and Pokemon Black and White, like using like my own dino and like being like, oh, this Pokemon's so cool, I love this Pokemon, like whatever. So yeah, that's just like the main reason why I like it. There's really no other like explanation other than like, yeah, it just looks sick. And I did end up using it in VGC in a couple different formats as well, and it was pretty fun to play. So that's why it's like kind of like a core memory to me. I remember the format I liked the least in Sword and Shield was Series 6, just because it was like, it was when they had the top 10 ban of like, they just randomly banned the top 10. So like, I remember Porygon Z with like, Max Strike was everywhere. With like Clefairy, it was like really obnoxious. But then I found a really fun Hydreigon team. So that was like the main part of that core memory outside of just, childhood memories with it. So
yeah, fair enough. So it was just a love at first sight thing, and then you used it, and it was like, yeah, that cemented it for you.
Yeah, it's just pretty cool. Yeah, it's just a cool Pokemon, right?
Fair enough,
Yeah, I liked it so much. I mean, even in the first tournament of Scarlet and Violet, I'm pretty sure I used Hydreigon as well, because I just really liked it. So I was like, yeah, I just like, when I can use it, I'll use it. You know what I mean? But nowadays I don't really use it that much because, it's not particularly strong right now. But I mean, at least like for the type of stuff I like to use. But it's still pretty cool. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad that the heart wanted what it wanted, and hi Dragon, welcome to the team. If you're enjoying this chat with Joe, everybody, please do like and subscribe. It would go such a long way. But we've got so much more conversation to have. So we will now Draco Meteor from there over into consoles and YouTube.
So getting into getting into VGC. So it started, basically what happened was, it's like I was still into Pokemon, right? So I would play Pokemon a lot, but I wouldn't really, you know what I mean? Like play the same, VGC or anything. And I got really, really into playing on my PlayStation, like a bunch of different games, like Overwatch, a couple of other like games. And eventually I found this game called Injustice 2. I'm sure people who, played on the PlayStation 4 back at the time would definitely know about it. It was a really popular fighting game, like DC characters and everything. It was a really fun game, and there was like an online tournament that you could play through your PlayStation. Like you didn't have to go through any extra steps signing up or anything. You could literally sign up on your PlayStation and compete. So I ended up playing in the tournament. I think I ended up doing pretty well. I think I got like top 16 or something in it. And I was like, oh man, I love competing in like tournaments. It was just like a random thing. I was like, oh, this is so much fun. But one thing to know is my dad is Peruvian, right? And I think my dad's side was a little bit stricter than my mom's side, but obviously like a lot of things have changed over time, but basically like I was doing pretty bad in school, to put it bluntly. Like I was in a high school where I got a scholarship. So it was a private high school. I got a scholarship actually into it. But like I was kind of just like, where you're just like kind of just getting by, you know what I mean? Not really like doing super great. Like I was doing okay. In that school, 70 is considered, anything below 70 is considered a fail actually, which is different than I think a lot of the schools in the US. But basically, I was like just consistently netting like 75s, like 80s, you know what I mean? Like we're just like really skimming by here. And basically like my dad was like, oh, you're playing too many games. Like you need to like focus on school, like whatever. And of course, like I'm just going to goof off and just play games anyways. You know what I mean? Because like I'm a kid. So he ended up taking it away, but he took specifically my games away and my electronics away, besides my phone, and he forgot about my 3DS. So because he forgot about my 3DS, this is like my only lifeline for gaming, right? So, and I hid it somewhere. I remember I think I hid it in the bathroom, like under like a random cabinet or something, so like it wouldn't get taken away. And I started playing Pokemon Sun and Pokemon, I think it was Pokemon Sun actually, and I just like fell in love with the game, right? And then randomly I was on YouTube one day, and what happened is it was like the Pokemon World Championship finals or whatever, and I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like I'm like, you can compete in Pokemon and like, you know what I mean, play in worlds or whatever. So funny enough, I think my dad might have just known I had my DS anyways, because I remember just being straight up like, I didn't really try and hide it. I was like, hey, can you take me to Brooklyn for this like Pokemon event that I can like compete in, you know? So it was like kind of obvious, but like he ended up taking me anyways. I remember it was King's Games in Brooklyn. I think that they're not open anymore, but that was like the first local I'd ever gone to back then in 2017. And it was pretty big. It was like 51 players, I'm pretty sure. It was like right after Worlds in 2017. And I remember like going there and like loving it. It was just like really fun. And it was I just fell in love with it basically.
Wow, okay. Do you remember how that tournament went?
I went 3-3. I met a lot of people. It was really fun. Like getting to compete there was great. I remember Jen Bama was actually the one running that local as well, and Jen is still actually on the judge team, I'm pretty sure. But she was really nice and welcoming. I do remember that. So
that's fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, imagine if your 3DS had been taken away as well. Maybe you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now.
But yeah, it's very lucky. I mean, to be honest, like I think if it had gotten taken away, I probably would have had no reason to play Pokemon. But I think I just like I might have found my way there anyways at some point because I was already kind of into Pokemon anyways. But I definitely think that was like the push that really got me into VGC and like trying to compete, and getting me to want to travel. And I think definitely it was like a big catalyst for it for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So you discover as well that, there is a competitive side and you stumble upon that on YouTube. At this point, are you thinking that you could maybe do YouTube as well, or does that come later?
No, that's later. Actually, there's a secret channel. I don't think if anyone's watching this, I encourage you, try to find it. There is an old YouTube channel I have where I posted Star Wars Battlefront videos and I posted old Pokemon videos, right? It is... You hear my young voice. I'm pretty sure I was like 15, 16. Like you can hear that I'm really young in these videos when I'm talking. But there is a channel that is still up. I have not gotten rid of it. that is my old YouTube channel, and I leave it up so I can go back and look at it once in a while. Also, I forgot the login, so I can't really like take it offline. But but yeah, there is a channel there that you can find that is slightly close in name to my current channel name, but it's like different enough where you might not be able to find it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's homework for everyone watching and listening. Try and find.
If anyone's really invested, I mean, they can look for it. I can't give more than that. Otherwise, it's, you know what I mean. Like then it's too easy. You know.
No, that's the game. Wonderful. Well, thank you for that, Joe. Now let's discover who's going to be Pokemon number 2 on your dream team alongside Hydreigon.
Yeah, so my second is a little bit more expected, I suppose. So it's going to be Yveltal. Yveltal's actually what a lot of my colors in branding is based around, funny enough. If you look at like the type of red I'm using and the like black colors usually on the stuff I'm doing, and even the fonts, like they're very inspired by like kind of Yveltal's look. And it was the main inspiration for the original like X9 kind of colors, logos, and everything. So that was definitely a big aspect of, you know, like pretty much everything related to my identity in VGC. Like Yveltal is like one of my favorite legendaries by far. Like I used it for my first like really good season of success in VGC as well. Like it was like my strongest team, right, that I had played at least at that time. And yeah, it was just a great Pokemon. Like I just really like how it looks. Super cool. It resonated with me in Pokemon Y a lot. I was like, oh, this Pokemon's awesome. I picked that version obviously because I thought, you know, the giant death bird looks way cooler than like a deer. Basically was what I saw. But yeah, no, it was really cool. It's like what my branding's based off of. It's just like a really like sick Pokemon. So
Would you? I mean, it's a pretty big decision to base your colors and brand to a certain extent off that Pokemon. Would you say that back in the day it was your favorite?
Yeah. I would say back in the... Well, so there's... Like, I can't spoil my favorite, but there's a reason why my favorite is my favorite, but I don't think it'd be good for branding as good as, like, Yveltal, because what I really like the way I think about, like, content, designing my channel, everything, like, I like the sleek, you know what I mean, like, well-polished look, but, like, it has, like, those cool colors, you know what I mean? Like, if it's, like... if it's like 14-year-old me looking at it like, oh, this red and black logo is so cool, like, you know what I mean? It's like that's basically like what the vibe is for me.
There's only one move we can use as a segue now. We're going to Oblivion Wing from there into talking about traveling.
Yep. So actually getting the travel for the game really started with, you know, even though I kind of mentioned that my dad had taken away my PlayStation and everything, like my parents actually were like relatively supportive of me traveling like once in a while for tournaments. So actually, the first regional I ever attended was Hartford Regionals in Connecticut. And my mom, basically I begged my mom, like, please, I want to go to this event so bad. I'm like, I can't go on my own, obviously, right? Because I was too young at the time. I think I was like 16 or 17. And I was like, please take me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm begging you, like, please let me like go to this event. So I remember we took the Amtrak up from New York to Connecticut and got a hotel there. And then I remember competing, and like it was a pretty big core memory. Actually, one of my best friends now in the game was also competing there, Brady Smith. Actually, we were a very similar age, but he was a lot better than me at that time. And I remember he was there. I didn't obviously know I was gonna like be friends with him until later. But I remember Ray Rizzo was there. It was actually, I'm pretty sure, the last IRL tournament that Ray Rizzo played before he went to Japan and like kind of just like vanished from IRL tournaments. And I remember he passed by, and I was telling my mom, I'm like, oh, it's Ray Rizzo. He's like the 3-time world champ. Like, but then I remember being too scared to like actually go up and get a photo. But yeah, so that was like the main thing there. And then from there, I ended up going to Collinsville Regionals in Illinois I remember it was right before Intimidate Incineroar dropped in VGC 18. And I competed there. And then I started playing at locals in 2019 pretty regularly. And that's when I started going for my first Worlds invite, actually. So.
Yeah. And for anyone familiar, yeah, Incineroar with Intimidate has, ever since its introduction, been omnipresent in competitive Pokemon. It's just a very useful Pokemon to have on your team in for various ways that we don't need to get into now. But yeah, do you think that without Pokemon you wouldn't have unlocked such a lot of traveling?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. I mean, a lot of people in New York on Long Island, like a lot of the life that you go through is, you know, you grow up in Long Island, you go to college, you come back, you know what I mean? You meet someone in Long Island, you settle down, right? And then you just kind of stay in Long Island. That's usually like the pipeline over here, I think. But I think a combination of having lived in the city earlier, plus like the fact that I do Pokemon, I travel a lot, has really like changed perception on that. I'm not necessarily saying I like hate the idea of eventually like settling down somewhere, but I think it's definitely made me more open to like traveling around a lot more and seeing a lot more for sure. I think it's funny because it sounds like you would assume in New York, right? Like obviously things are going to be a lot more, how do I put it? Like everyone's going to be a lot more like worldview traveling or anything. But in Long Island specifically, I think it's very like, oh, chill in Long Island. You know what I mean? Like hang out, that kind of vibe. So.
And I guess, it was sort of the way was paid for it a little bit earlier on, given that you moved to Brazil when you were so young. So maybe that also kindled some kind of desire to travel there. Okay, and then that tournament that you attended, Hartford, do you remember how that one went?
Oh, I went like 4-4 or something. I remember I went like completely neutral, I'm pretty sure. I think that team was like loosely what I used to actually get second at my first local in 2017 that I played. And that's actually how I met some other players, because I remember I met Chuppa there, I met Justin Karras there, a couple of others as well that like I would know obviously more later and like get to interact with more later. But specifically, like I remember that local, like whatever team I used there was inspired off of the previous like Hartford team somehow. There was like some kind of like influence there or whatever. So yeah.
Sure. Okay, and so remind us roughly what year this would have been that you're talking about here with that Hartford.
2017.
2017.
Yeah,
sure.
2017. Towards the later half of the year, because Hartford was post-Worlds in 2017, and then the local was also post-Worlds as well. So,
sure.
I think it was in like November, December.
So then after you go to Hartford, presumably you definitely want to compete more. And were your parents then more on board with that, seeing how much fun you were having been to Hartford?
I think it, so not fully yet, because I think there were still, unrelated to Pokemon, like still a lot of like academic stuff where I just wasn't really like, I think finding my stride as much, right? Not, and I don't mean that in the, like, to soften that, like, I was doing bad in some, I was obviously just doing bad in some classes, but I think, like, I always knew that, like, my brain was, like, not really suited for, like, I want to sit down in school and just, like, practice, you know, or, like, practice something or, like, study. Like, there wasn't really anything that felt, like good there for me. Actually, funny enough, my favorite subject was history, so I thought I was always going to become like a history teacher or something. So I guess I became a teacher in a different way, but basically I just found that like as I kept going through the schooling system, like nothing was really appealing to me, and I was kind of going through the motion. So I actually did end up, obviously planning on going to college. It was just COVID that really cut that off. So
Sure, and I know we're about to talk about COVID more, so we'll put a pin in that there. Now discover who's going to be Pokemon number 3 on your dream team alongside Hydreigon and Yveltal.
Yeah, so I have to throw this one in, of course, King Gambit. I mean, this Pokemon's just sick. I mean, it's my favorite Pokemon of Scarlet and Violet. It's easily risen to, like, the top of, like, my favorite Mons. It has so much aura, you know what I mean? It just sits there. It's like, yeah, like, I'm here. What are you going to do about it? You know what I mean? Like, Sucker Punch, you know? Yeah. And I think that it's just, like, I like Bisharp already, and then the fact it got an evolution, and it's just, like, this, like, really cool like samurai looking guy just sitting down on his like seat, on his throne or whatever. Like, I know Supreme Overlord isn't good, but can we talk about how sick that like ability name is? Like, just like Supreme Overlord, as I think that's in like top 5 best like ability names of like all time, or like of all time. I think it's like really sick. I just really love the design of it, and I like playing it in competitive as well. Like, actually, if you look at the stats of the highest earning King Gambit players, I'm number 1 on that. Actually, I think I've earned the most money using King Gambit out of like every player using it, funny enough. So
wow, that's a fascinating stat. For anyone unfamiliar, Supreme Overlord, one of King Gambit's abilities, gives it a little bit of power for every one of the Pokemon on your team that has fainted or been knocked out.
Really bad in competitive, though. Really bad in competitive. Really bad in competitive doubles, I should say.
Right.
Yes. Defiant's way better. Just use Defiant if you're going to play doubles.
Sure, but you're right. It is a very cool name, and there's a real theme emerging here with a black and red color scheme, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But also, just like Hydreigon and Yveltal, obviously they're both sort of flying. They've got their wings spread wide, and King Gambit also has that threatening presence, partly because of that sort of, I guess it's hair that's bulging out from the back around him. So I'm interested to see how this develops, whether it'll be like a random side up.
Oh, you're going to love the second half. The second half. I'm just going to completely throw your point like out the window, basically, in like a gut full of Pokemon.
No, I can't wait. Well, King Gambit, welcome to the Dream Team. Okay, and now we will sucker punch from there into your early success in VGC before the pandemic.
Yeah, so basically, I attended Worlds 2019 as a spectator. I had barely missed my invite for Worlds 2019, but I still wanted to go. And at this point, I was old enough where like I could obviously go with friends or like stuff like that if I knew people, and just convince my parents like, hey, like obviously, like you know what I mean, I'll be safe or whatever. So I remember going to Worlds 2019 and seeing this player called Kazuki Kobayashi. He was playing a Yveltal Groudon team, and I love Groudon and I love Yveltal. And I saw this, I'm like, oh my god, I love this. And so basically, I don't really know how to explain it, like why I got so much better in that period of time, other than legitimately, like I'm at college sitting down and I am just playing games over and over and over again. I mean, I'm saying like I'm putting like real like 9 to 5 hours in on this, right? I think I spent more time playing Pokemon than like doing anything class related, right? Like I'm in class, I'm just like whatever, you know what I mean? Like I'm just doing what I need to do. You know what I mean? Like playing games. I remember like I counted how many games I'd played like at the end, right? I think, oh my god, I think I had like 4,500 games in the span of like 2 months, I'm pretty sure. Right? Like an absurd amount of like I mean like basically you're spending, you know, so much time like on this, but it paid off, to be honest. Like I mean I can't complain, right? I went to I think it was Knoxville Regionals. I did a carpool with a bunch of local players from Chicago, and I ended up, where was it? I think it ended up being like a 9-hour drive down there, and I ended up getting top 4, and then obviously ended up heading back, and then went to Richmond Regionals, got top 8. And I actually, and this is again like where my mom was really supportive of like my like Pokemon stuff. I was broke, like I had no money, right? And I told my mom, I'm like, Mom, I'm like, I am like so certain that if I show up to this regional in Portland, I am going to win. Like I'm like, I know this team is really good and I'm going to win. I promise you I'll pay you back, right? And she lends me the money, so I'm able to fly to Portland, and I end up winning the tournament, right? And of course I end up paying her back. But because of that, I end up getting the travel award, which then gives me the money to continue traveling and competing. So then I go to Daytona. I get second to now my good friend Brady. It was only 36 players, by the way, at Daytona Regionals. Just, like, for context of how small things were back then. Legitimately, it was on Thanksgiving weekend. So obviously most people are going to be at home on Thanksgiving. And it's legitimately just 36 players in the VG area. So I cut the tournament starting 1-2 at I remember like 4-2 I think or something is how I cut the tournament basically. Like these tournaments were like basically locals at the time essentially, because like that's how much smaller the game was, and also too is near the end of the game's life cycle as well. So that was probably a part of it. But yeah, no, it was just like it was crazy times back then. Everything was like a lot smaller, a lot closer. You knew people a lot differently. And like, yeah, I basically after all the events I played, because I got like 4th, 8th, 1st and 2nd, I was able to actually be number 1 in the US by a good margin at the time. And then obviously we were getting into Sword and Shield close to that time. Sword and Shield was okay. I think that was a bit of a rougher transition for me, for sure. It was the first time I had really like, because you know you put in like 4,500 games in one format, and then you're playing a completely different game, completely different mechanic, right? Like obviously I hadn't really figured it out yet. But then COVID stuff happened, so I ended up leaving college. I remember, and then from there, it basically pushed me. Sorry, I know this is a really long section, by the way. This is like a super long story, but essentially, I was really enjoying college, right? Like, but I was in college because I was like enjoying the college social part of it rather than like really like having something that I was pushing for, like with meaning, I think. And I think COVID happening and pushing me into online and me just hating online schooling, like literally like during online schooling, I remember I would just be like playing Pokemon, or I would just be like thinking about like YouTube or like content like streaming on Twitch, like stuff like that. And it just really pushed me towards that. I actually started streaming on Twitch right before COVID, while I was at college, actually, off of my laptop there. But it actually started growing pretty substantially. I remember I went from like, I think it was like three viewers concurrent to like 76 by the time, like in a span of like 2 months basically. And then with Sword and Shield coming out, and then me being at home focusing on content, I was able to then just really start funneling time into that. And I remember I grew pretty quickly. Like my stream was easily getting to like 200 viewers by like just like I think like a year in. I think that was part of it was like COVID growth as well, because like a lot of people were inside like on their phones and everything. But because of all of that, I was able to grow like a coaching business. I was able to, you know what I mean, make a successful YouTube eventually, like stream a lot on Twitch, like do a bunch of things. And I remember like now I look at my desk, right, and I see like a nice little like Razer pad, nice like Razer keyboard, a Switch 2, like, you know, 2 monitors, like a nice camera. But I remember back in the day, it's like this little like elevated like fan cooling thing with my laptop on top plugged up to like a bunch of USB things. And it's crazy to see like even just looking at my desk, like how different it all is now. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Okay. Well, I mean, you know, as I'm sure so many people will be able to sympathise with, just beginning to hit your stride just when the pandemic hits. But at the same time, as you say, the fact that you started streaming just before the pandemic is kind of, I guess, it ended up being one of the best times to start streaming, because then, of course, things grow. I will just chuck in a little note for everyone. Please do focus on your studies if you are at college or school.
This is not me advocating for what I did. Yeah. It worked out for me. But I will say, right, if you're not like the number one player at the time, it's very hard to build a brand just like quitting school and doing everything. I think it was a combination of like COVID as a circumstance allowing me to do it, plus like the fact that I was number one at the time, so you're able to use that a lot in your titles and stuff, of course, like stuff like that. I think that all helped for sure. So.
Yeah, for sure. And okay, so then you start to do all this coaching and stuff over the process of COVID. So it seems like I think a lot of people will have a similar thing, but for you especially, the person you were and the things you were doing heading into the pandemic versus coming out of the pandemic are like totally different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you know, when I look back at it, it's really interesting because I feel like it completely changed my life path, to be honest, like just like COVID in general. And the direction I ended up going was just like very different. I remember actually conversation telling my parents like, yeah, I'm not going back to school. You know, I had like a scholarship, like I was really giving up like a serious like chunk of change, like on the scholarship. At first I framed it as, oh, I'm gonna take the break year that I'm allowed to take. I knew I wasn't really probably coming back. And then there were other factors too that ended up kind of pushing me towards deciding I wasn't going to come back. But frankly, like it was the best decision I think I've ever made. Not because it's made my life like incredibly easy. Like I am lucky to do what I'm doing right now, but it also has its volatile aspects. Like you don't always make a consistent stream of income unless you're like, you know, diversifying, which I'll probably get into later. But essentially it forced me to make myself uncomfortable and push myself to do things, you know what I mean, that I could have just followed the pipeline, just got in a job, you know what I mean, and then done whatever. But because of COVID, it like forced me to actually like reevaluate what I wanted to do and like what made me happy. And even though I don't think I made like if I went back in time, I could probably make the choice a little bit more smart. But I think the fact that I went into the choice kind of dumb was like better for me in a way. You know what I mean? Yeah, there was a lot of it that I think I'm grateful that it happened when it happened, because I think it, like, even now, though I have a different perspective on some things, it still was, like, good because it pushed me to do something, right? It pushed me to try and make a change. And when I told my parents I was quitting, I remember I was like, yeah, I'm making, like, $250 on Twitch a month. They're like, what is wrong with you? Are you insane? Like, you're making $250 on Twitch a month and you're going to quit? I'm like, yeah, I'm going to make it more. You know what I mean? And I did end up making more and then doing everything. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like a push to do it. And again, if COVID hadn't happened, I wasn't like living at home at that time, right? And being pushed into a situation where I was doing that, I think it would have changed a lot for sure. So it ended up working out.
Yeah. Wow. It's really interesting to get your perspective on that. So thank you very much, Joe. And now it's time to introduce what's going to be Pokemon number 4 on your dream team alongside Hydreigon, Yveltal, and King Gambit.
Yeah, so we're breaking up the, you know, like all sleek black, like red, cool themes. We're going to be throwing in Jumpluff, but only shiny Jumpluff. I want to clarify. Okay. Only shiny Jumpluff is in my top 5. I don't like, I feel like regular Jumpluff looks weird, but like the shiny one looks really cool. Jumpluff, I just really like Jumpluff as a Pokemon. Like it's just like really cool looking. It's like very you look at it and you're like, oh, like this Pokemon's definitely bad and competitive. Like who the heck would use this? You know what I mean? But like, or like if you were looking from an outsider perspective, like, you know, you're looking at, you wouldn't assume it's like one of the better ones. But yeah, it just fits in with one of my favorite archetypes, which is Sun. It was a really like special Pokemon to me just because I've had so much success with it. You know what I mean? And I just really like Jumpluff. Like I just think it's a really cool Pokemon. Like the idea of like this random like pink looking cotton ball just coming in and like ruining your day and like allowing like all its big bad like teammates to like sweep through a team is just like really funny. So I just like Jumpluff in general. It's just a cool looking Pokemon.
Yeah, there is something hilarious about those. I think Whimsicott's another example of those cute, tiny, another cotton-based Pokemon who then actually is really difficult to deal with, and it's just sort of that smile seems to just grow with every Pokemon it puts to sleep on your opponent's team, etc. And Pink, you know, it's not red and black, but it's still sort of conforming to that theme. And I mean, you mentioned that Groudon there is another one of your favorite legendaries, and it sets up the sun for Jumpluff, and that's another black and red Pokemon, so a real strong color scheme that's going on here. And I know that Jumpluff is a Pokemon that you've really had some success with. You've won at least one regional with Jumpluff, right?
Yeah, so I won Portland in 2023 with Jumpluff. I got second with it twice in Sacramento and Louisville. And then I got top 4 with Jumpluff in NAIC 2020 or 2023. Yeah, so pretty good track record, actually. It's one of the better Pokemon I've used for sure in terms of how it's doing and everything. And to be honest, a lot of those tournaments, I think, like, if a couple more things go my way, right, like, I'm probably able to have more wins with it, too. So, but that's, like, the nature of Jumpluff, right? It's a very volatile Pokemon. That's, like, the fun of it, but also the not fun part of it at the same time, I guess.
Sure. Yeah. Well, yeah, and as you say, you can't have the things that are particularly fun without the when it goes wrong and it doesn't work out that time. But there we go.
Exactly.
And also, I just realized the first 3 Pokemon on your team, they all have at least a part dark typing.
Yep.
And now with Jumpluff, we've got Grass and Flying, and then otherwise Kingambit also Steel, Yveltal also Flying, and Hydreigon also Dragon. So yeah, interested to see how the team continues to develop. Would you say that Dark is your favorite type?
Yeah, 100%. I actually that's what I was gonna say is like I just really like dark types in general. I just think they're really cool. Like I just like you can never go wrong with like a really cool black theme Pokemon with like some red colors or like whatever color. It always looks sick, right? It won't actually make the list, but to throw in like a bonus one to more to my point, I guess. Shiny Haxorus, basically, from Black and White 2. Like that color scheme was like super cool to me and was like one of my favorite like, extra like Pokemon that like I really like. But it's not gonna make the list, so I figure it's worth a reference here, I guess.
Yeah, there we go. The honourable mention to Shiny Haxorus, yeah.
Yep.
Another black and red and another dragon. Well, anyway, for now, Jumpluff, welcome to the team. Now, we'll activate our Chlorophyll to sleep powder into your strong performances after the pandemic.
I would say, returning from COVID was a really like mixed bag for me. I was really happy to be back, but I think, and this is something that I think is really worth talking about with VGC, it's very easy to have like an unhealthy dynamic with the game where a lot of your self-worth and value comes from how you do. And what happened was I need to, I guess, a precursor to this, I guess is the word you say, whatever it is. So during COVID, my closest like, relative, my grandfather, right? He got sick and he actually ended up passing away during COVID, right? And he was basically like second dad to me. I had lived with him throughout all the time in my young life in, the Upper West Side. I actually ended up during COVID originally moving back to the city first and then moving back home. So I lived with him for a bit and he was my best friend by far. I even still like nowadays, like I'm better at dealing with it now, but I used to just bring up his name and I'd like tear up and just like not be able to like, you know what I mean? Like talk about it that much. But like he was very special to me and I don't think there's ever going to be anyone in my life who will probably impact my life the way he had. I still think back and I wish I had more time to spend with him, but essentially bringing this all up to say during COVID, because of that happening, I basically threw everything I had at Pokemon so I could kind of escape from that like reality. Like people process their grief differently, right? And for me, it's like, okay, I'm just going to 100% put everything I have into, Pokemon stuff, right? So that was really good for being good at the game, right? But I think overall, I didn't really get to properly process, what I was experiencing, like that grief, like that sadness I was experiencing. So on the return for COVID, the first tournament back in Salt Lake City, right? I did pretty well. I got top 4, but I remember like I lost to Aaron Trailer in top 4. It was like really unlucky. There's actually like a whole stream clip about it. I'm pretty sure there's literally a content piece about it on the official Pokemon stream.
I think so.
And I just got like super unlucky, and I remember like how angry I felt. You know what I mean? It wasn't angry at like Aaron. It was just like anger at like the game being like, yo, how could the game like do this to me? Basically, like, you know what I mean? Like I played perfectly and I got punished essentially, right? And I remember like thinking to it, and like I think my relationship with the game was a lot less healthier because I put so much value on like what the end result was, and if I didn't win, it felt like I was failing, basically, right? And I would just use that like single, like it's weird because like that determination to like win was good for me, but bad for me in the same way. And I remember just like really like pushing myself as hard as I possibly could, playing as much as I could, like doing everything. I mean, in that time it was VGC 22. I had played like almost a comparable amount of games to what I had mentioned in 2019. Like I'm saying like thousands and thousands of games. I actually look back at my total games like recently, actually, because I was talking about it with a bunch of friends. I think I had like 4,000 or 5,000 games in the format, right? Like a lot, you know what I mean? But it basically made it that every time I didn't win, right, I felt like I was like, oh, dude, like I put in so much effort and I'm just like not getting rewarded for it. You know what I mean? And I will say, right, like in EYC 22, I ended up doing really well. I ended up being one game off of making finals there, and I was pretty bummed, but that one I knew that like I was like, okay, like I could have made a better plan like to win, you know what I mean, win the tournament or like whatever. I'm not even sure I would have won finals. But then NAIC 22. So me and now for context on this, me and James Evans are really good friends now, right? And we were still good friends back then, but that was probably my lowest, most unhealthiest point with the game, even though it's finding success. So this sounds all crazy because I was actually doing pretty well, right? Like, I mean, overall, like you'd be happy with 2 top 4 ICs. But I remember in my set versus James Evans, game 1 I win, right? Game 2, I'm like about to win, and I get like, well, I think it's like, I remember I get like critical hit, like flare blitz burned on my Groudon to like lose, right? And I remember like in the moment being like pissed, but I'm like, okay, it's fine, I have game 3. And then in our game 3, the footage actually is gone because the stream like had an outage or something like mid us playing. I get double Astral Barrage crit through light screen, and then like I just like remember missing something and just losing, right? And the amount of like anger I had in that moment, like I'm saying unhealthy levels of anger. Like I'm not saying like good. Like I was so angry and upset, and I'm not like proud of that in hindsight, but it's definitely a good like reflection, I think, for me. I remember like James coming up to me after the match being like, oh, like good games. I mean, obviously like that's probably the worst thing to say to someone when you like hacks them out for what's worth. Me and James have talked about this, so it's not like anything crazy. But I just remember being like, yo, bro, like not right now. Like, you know what I mean? I just like walk up the stage. I remember like being like so angry and upset, and like I was like, oh man, like I can't believe this. I think that moment in hindsight was like, now when I look back at it, right? Like in the moment it wasn't like something that I look at and I'm like, oh, okay. Or in the moment it wasn't something I looked at and be like, okay, like this is not justified or whatever, right? But in the hindsight of knowing where it was coming from, right? Like the aspect of, oh, like I'm investing so much into this game that it's almost like consumed me as like being the only thing that can like really bring me like serious happiness, you know what I mean? Or like I'm overindulging in something that's like a positive thing in my life, essentially, right? It made me realize that like it made me hungrier to win at the time, but now when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, like I think that desire to win is good, like the actual like motivation, determination to work that hard is good, but it's about how you like frame it and how it impacts your like state of mind, I think is what it is. You know what I mean? And I remember finding a better balance at Worlds, because I lost at Worlds. I got really unlucky at Worlds as well to get knocked out, but I did cut. I remember, actually I think I have to talk about that story first, because I think that's like a pretty core part of like me as a person. So I'm at Worlds 22. I've obviously practiced really hard for this event. I'm automatically in day 2 because at the time you would get an auto day 2. Doing well. And I remember my winning in is against Tomoyuki Yoshimura, I'm pretty sure. Yes, Snow, as they're known online. And earlier I had played versus Snow, and like every time I'd play versus Snow, I got like destroyed basically, right? But I remember sitting down for that match, and it's a win-in, and there are like, I mean, a lot of people around, right? All the Japanese players, my dad who came over to watch, my dad's fiance, Sierra was there as well, like all my friends. And I remember like in the moment how that felt, you know what I mean? Like that excitement, but like that nervousness, you know what I mean? It's like this, it was also my first Worlds too. So I remember like I'm sitting there, I'm like, damn, I'm playing like one of the best players in Japan. You know what I mean? Like I want to win. And I remember the set being so back and forth. And I'm even getting emotional, like thinking about it now, but, we play the set out and I win, and Snow does something that I'll always remember, like going forward. I win. He grabs my hand, he raises it, and he says, "Congrats." And I'm like celebrating with everyone. I look back at the table and I see he's like crying a little bit. You know what I mean? At the table. And it makes me realize that like when you win, right? Or these experiences you all have, everyone is going through these experiences the same as you. They're doing the best they can as people. And like, even though for you it might be like the devastating end to your like main character run and like NAIC 22, right? You're doing that to a bunch of other people too throughout your run. You know what I mean? If you might not notice. And the humility and the way that he handled that loss, right? Like even raising my hand, like being very kind, but then seeing him have those emotions after made me realize it's like, that's like the kind of like sportsmanship I want to strive to have. You know what I mean? And I remember I lost, and I'm like crying thinking about this because it's like it is a really impactful moment for me. And I remember losing in top 16. I was upset anyways, of course, because I'd practiced really hard. Like the matchup was really good for me. I got like unlucky, but I always now, whenever I'm like really upset about losing, I think back to like that moment. You know what I mean? And that's like what I strive for in terms of how I treat like other people. You know what I mean? Regardless of like win or lose, because everyone's going through their own experiences. You never know like what experiences people are going through, you know what I mean? Their personal lives that are impacting things. And that was like the biggest, I think, shift for me. And I wasn't a perfect like competitor or person after, but I think that was definitely like a big moment for me in terms of like understanding things going forward. Like I definitely still have my moments where like I lose in tournament, I'm crazy bummed, I don't want to talk to anyone for a little bit or like figure it out. But that experience alone definitely changed a lot of how I do it. And there's a moment actually, if you look at NAIC 23, if that had been a year ago, I don't think I would have taken the loss as well as I did. But even after I lost to Raghav, I raised his hand and I did the same thing Snow did to me when I lost to Winnin, because it felt right in the moment. And I think that's what like at the heart of the game and what at the heart of being a competitor, like what it's about. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you're not going to be the best player there. You know what I mean? Sometimes you're going to lose. You're going to get really unlucky. But the same way that you'd want someone to be a good sport and like, you know, raise your hand or do that, like that's what I want to be able to do for other people, even if that's hard, because the hardest decisions a lot of the time are the ones that are more meaningful or better in a lot of situations, is what I've learned, I think.
Yeah. Thank you very much for openness and honesty there, Joe. I think, I'm glad that you look back on that and sort of take from that maybe something that you feel like you were lacking at the time. And those moments are always very touching. My favourite moment from the Europe International Championships this year was when, in the top 4, Dil Yeomans beat Yosuke Takiyanagi. And it wasn't lifting up his hand, but Yosuke was just clearly afterwards saying to him, "Well done, you totally deserve this." And Dil was already crying, and then that just made it all the more so. And it's just wonderful that, we're in a community where people will... sooner or later learn that is exactly what we're all dealing with, and it's all about that sportsmanship.
Yeah, it's hard. Like coming from a competitor, it's hard sometimes to be happy for others the same way you'd be happy for yourself. Like I don't think anyone expects anyone else to do that the same way. Of course, you'd rather be the person winning, but I think it's really important to be able to push that aside. And like even when you lose, like treating it objectively, like, okay, I wasn't able to push past the adversity that like was in this match, like what can I do better, or like anything. And I think it's helped me with, I guess, being able to come to terms with the fact that I won't always win. There's still obviously expectations, like things that you have, but yeah, I think it's definitely like helped a lot. And I think going into Scarlet and Violet, it's what helped me find a lot of my success too, was pushing myself really hard to like still win, but doing it in a slightly different way where I felt like it was a little bit healthier to myself. You know what I mean? And I mean, sure. I don't even think I had that fully figured out really until I think this year even though arguably my start this year is a lot worse than my previous other years, I feel like my balance between Pokemon, life, everything else has been a lot better, for sure.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, and long may that continue. And now it's time to introduce what's going to be Pokemon number 5 on your dream team, alongside Hydreigon, Yveltal, Kingambit, and Shiny Jumpluff.
Yes, I told you I was throwing you a curveball. So for my 5th, it's going to be Horsey. So I'll explain it.
Nice.
So Horsey. And the reasoning for it is, it reminds me of my mom. It's like her favorite Pokemon. So my mom loves seahorses, basically, is the thing. So because she loves seahorses, I brought her back a little like Horsey from like a tournament or whatever. And whenever I see like little seahorse things or whatever, I think of my mom. So that's why it's like one of my favorites. Because like whenever I think of like Horsey, it just like reminds me of my mom. And I feel like it's fitting too, because my mom was the one who got me my first Pokemon game and everything, right? So
Yeah.
I you know what I mean? It makes me think of her, and like I think that's just like a nice, you know what I mean, cool Pokemon to have as one of your favorites, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And that's
For that
wonderful
reason,
logic behind
yeah.
it. And you get bonus points from me as well, because obviously my favourite Pokemon's Kingdra. But
Yeah.
right here, I've got my little Horsey plushie.
Yeah, you got the Horsey.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yep.
Love that wrap back round to the person who started it all off for you, really, and your mum. So Horsey, welcome to the team. But before we round out this dream team, it's now time to talk about your reflections and experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got into it, I guess, in the previous section, but I would say, I think with Pokemon, right, I always had the goal of wanting to be the world champion, right? And especially in 22 and 23, I'm not going to say I'm not at my peak now, because I feel like I'm a little bit better, actually, in some ways than before. But when I was, like, at the peak of, like, every tournament I was going to, I was cutting, like, doing everything. You know what I mean? I think it's given me a lot of perspective, I think, on like how I treat success and like what it's really measured as. Like before, what I used to use as my metric of success is like, okay, how are you doing across the board at every tournament? Which I do think it to a degree. Obviously, if you're like going 5-3 at every tournament, you're not really like being successful in terms of like what a top player would view as like what they want to do, right? If you're viewing it in your own personal journey, that might be different, right? But specifically from a top player perspective, they're being harsh on themselves. You know, if you're not cutting tournaments consistently, you're like kind of like failing. That's how you feel, at least, right? What I've really realized is, for me, is trying to find satisfaction and like basically like being proud of myself when I feel like I've played the tournament to the best of my ability, right? So, and I think what I value a lot more now than the record, but I still want to do well, right? Like obviously I still compete, like I want to win, is when I come into the tournament and I play, right? Did I play every round to the best I possibly could? Like, even if I got unlucky, even if anything, right? Every single turn that I was in control of, right? Did I make the best possible play I could? And if I didn't, then that's something I want to work on and improve for next time, right? And if I did, right, then I can be content that, like, I played the best I possibly could and it didn't work out for me, right? Because I think if you can walk into a tournament like that, right, if you lose and you can identify where you maybe made mistakes even though you got unlucky and improve on those, right, that's going to help you become a better player long term, right? Now, that being said, I will say, I think as the game has grown bigger and things have changed, there's a lot of like adjustments, I think, for players who have been around for a while and for players who are like kind of in that weird like middle phase where like they are not really part of the new generation. I think I'm probably in that phase, right? Like I'm not of the new generation, but I'm not of like the super old generation either of like VGC players. So I think it puts me in a really like interesting spot. But I've had to figure out a lot of like different things about like where I'm at as a player, how like what do I view as success, what do I want, right? Is that world championship dream still like attainable for me, you know what I mean? Because as much as everyone likes to sit around and like pretend that like, oh, like I'm gonna be able to win eventually, you know what I mean? Like there's obviously a lot of like aspects to it. Like, are you at your peak? Are you practicing the hardest you possibly could be, right? Are you putting in enough reps to really make sure that you're like invested enough, right? And over time I've realized that like I still love VGC and it is a core part of like my identity, right? It is a core part of like my life and like where I see myself like being a part of going forward. But I also value being able to like diversify my impacts within the game, right? Like I don't only want to be known in the game as like only the like one of the best competitors in North America, right? Like writing articles for Pokemon has been like a really fulfilling experience for me, right? Working on roundtables to preview like internationals with Aaron Trailer and Lou as well, right? Like it's been really nice to kind of widen that, along with like working on YouTube, you know, being able to focus on the new games that come out, like being able to do ZA rank battles or like other things, right? Like having fun with other competitive things is nice, right? And I think what I've realized too is that if I want to be able to do something like this long term, you have to be able to diversify your income streams where they're not only dependent on how well you do at tournaments, right? Because in a perfect world, right, I'm winning every tournament, it doesn't matter, right? But with like the hindsight of like knowing obviously how things work, right? Like of course you need to definitely make sure that you can be stable regardless of how well you're doing at tournaments, for sure. And I think that's like a big thing that I've learned more now. And I wish that if I could go back, the only thing I would change is like setting up those other diverse streams of income so that you could be stable regardless of how you're doing. Because at the time, I was like top 4, like finals, win, like whatever, you know what I mean? Back to back to back, right? You don't care. Like you're like, whatever, I'm making like a ton of money. You know what I mean? But once you know you have a rough string of like tournaments, right, or something doesn't go your way a couple times, right, you're kind of back at like square one, you know. So I think it's definitely something that with hindsight I see differently for sure. And it, you know, I have to say one of the more impactful things too is like I'm not like old, right? I'm 24, but I would say like in the game, right, I'm a bit more of an old dog now in terms of like, you know what I mean, like what I know and what I experience. And I have a lot of friends who are like just in that like 18, 19-year-old range, you know what I mean? They're really good at the game. They're talented players, right? And it reminds me a lot of myself at the time, like having the whimsy and joy of the game, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to win everything, you know what I mean? Like every single time, without knowing, I guess, some of the like hard parts that come along with it. And sometimes I envy that a little bit, you know what I mean? Because in some ways, like just being able to like be a kid, like be like, I'm going to win everything, I'm going to compete, play everything is like so nice. And then I think as you continue to have a longer experience with the game, you can still enjoy it, right? It's not that you can enjoy it, but your relationship with it changes a little bit, right, going forward. So
Thank you so much for that insight, Joe, and so many wise words for people to learn from. And I think fundamentally I'm just very pleased that you now feel like you've got that healthier relationship with the game, and you've got the balance. It's no longer sort of all eggs in the Pokemon VGC basket, and that you're able to enjoy other games like Pokemon Legends ZA in their own right as well.
Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to say, actually, that I almost forgot to say. This isn't an issue for all competitive players, but it's something I think is definitely worth talking about. I spent a lot of time traveling, competing, going to all these tournaments, right? Investing every time in the Pokemon, right? And I think it resulted in me having like a really unhealthy relationship with my body and like in terms of like my fitness, right? Like you're traveling all the time, you're going through airports, you're just eating whatever is there, right? You're going like to convention centers, you're eating convention center food, like whatever. I think I don't know if this is as much of a problem in Europe as it is in America, because obviously in America, like you eat convention center food, you're eating like chicken tenders, fries, like whatever the whole time. You know what I mean? Like it's like not really healthy. What I think was a big change for me was like recently, actually, also other personal things, but you know, generally also like me trying to build things other than the game. Working on fitness was like one of the most like motivational, like impactful experiences so far that I've had in my life, because like when you look at Pokemon, right, like sometimes you can like play perfectly, right, and you can like get knocked out in top 4 of a tournament, right? Like it doesn't matter, right? You get unlucky. When I go to the gym and I work out every single day, right? Even if it's a marginal improvement, I'm getting better every single day, essentially, right? So I'm getting rewarded for the time in which I'm putting in. And like the way I view that is like it helps keep me sane a little bit with Pokemon, because it's like, okay, you put your time into something consistently, it does reward you, even if it's like just a gradual change. Like, you know, I'm able to lift like 5 more pounds the next week, right? Or like whatever. And I think like, honestly, it just really helps with coming in with a clear mind to like anything related to like sitting down at a desk playing Pokemon, like anything. I think it's helped so much with like my balance between like sitting down playing Pokemon and like everything. So my suggestion to anyone who's like in similar shoes, because I've definitely been in the shoes of like I just play Pokemon all day, I sit inside, like whatever. Fitness, not even if it's like you don't even have to really like go to the gym and work out like I do. I think even if you just like take like 10,000 steps every day, or like even if you start with 5,000 steps, like it took me a while to build up to a place I was happy with, but like I think it's like one of the most impactful changes I've ever made into my life. Like I just feel better overall, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I'm able to do that, and like also by controlling my diet better, like I just feel like I can do more things. And I think that that's like something that's like super undervalued in the Pokemon space of like talking about, because obviously we're all gamers, so we just like do whatever, you know, but I think it's actually like really a valuable part of things for sure.
For sure. No, thank you very much for that. Yeah. Healthy relationship with mind as well as body. Thank you very much, Joe. And now it's time to introduce what's going to be Pokemon number 6 on your dream team.
So this is my favorite Pokemon. A lot of people actually don't know this. Funny enough, when I talk to them, they assume it's like something like Yveltal or Kingambit or something. It's actually Spheal. Spheal's my favorite Pokemon of all time. It's really cute. It's just like, I don't know, it's just like this like ball shape. It's just a really cute Pokemon. Like, I just really like it. And so in my OG days of Pokemon, when I was first getting into things in 2017, 2018, right? There was this streamer called Master Mark VGC, right? And like one of the biggest like things I would do is I would always watch those streams. And I remember it was on VGC 18. There's a clip of this on his channel. You could find this clip if you dig deep enough into his Twitch channel. It's still there. I show people once in a while. And I found this like really weird like Spheal rental, right? It was like sheer cold Spheal with like Instructor Rangaroo, like sheer cold like Smeargle or whatever, right? And we play. I remember it's a clip, right? So obviously I find him and I'm able to win with this like stupid Spheal like Instructor Rangaroo team, right? And that's not like the main reason why it's my favorite, but it was on the team because it was like I picked the rental because it's like one of my favorite Pokemon, right? So like whenever I think of Spheal too, I think of that and I like kind of chuckle to myself a little bit because it's just really funny because I literally I remember the Twitch clip. It's like my Smeargle throwing the sheer cold while Spheal's on the field as well, sheer cold into the Ferrothorn and be like, oh man, like just going crazy. And it was just like really funny. It's like a core memory I have from like the old days. So yeah, it's a special Pokemon. I like Spheal. It's really cute. This is a great Pokemon, like a great design too. Its evolutions are like not my favorite, but like Spheal itself is pretty cool. So Mega Spheal, maybe, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. For anyone unfamiliar with Sheer Cold, yeah, a one-hit knockout move. It's probably not going to hit, but when it does, you just lose that Pokemon. Yep. Spheal. Yeah, I did not see that coming, and this is so a team of two halves. It's really fascinating, and thank you for that story as well. This means that overall, Joe, that your complete dream team is Hydreigon, Yveltal, Kingambit. Those are like the bad guys. And then the good guys, the cute guys, we've got Shiny Jumpluff, Horsey, and Spheal. And Jumpluff, of course, is another spherical Pokemon. Horsey less spherical, but it's got that swirly tail, of course. There's a clear preference for Dark here as well. And they represent so well each of the topics you were talking about. But now I have to ask you, if you choose one of these to be your partner Pokemon, which would it be?
Oh, Spheal. No question, Spheal. 100%. Yeah, it's cute. Like, that'd be such a cool partner Pokemon to have. Not because it'd be useful. Like, obviously, like, if everyone picked a partner Pokemon and then I had to use this Spheal, like, I would probably be losing, like, almost 99% of my battles. But it's, like, it's cool. It's, like, it's a really cute Pokemon. I feel like the logistical concerns with the Yveltal and Kingambit would be a big problem. Like, how do you have a Kingambit in your house? You know what I mean? Like, it's just gonna, like, cut up everything. Like, all your, like, drapes, everything just sliced in half, right? And then you have, like, Yveltal, which is, like, literally a bird of death, right? So, like, how do you, like... how do you manage that at all, right? Like, and then a giant like Hydreigon. I mean, Jumpluff I could see, but I'm like pollen season gets me like sneezing and stuff, so I don't think that's really great. And Horsey needs to live in the water, so I feel like the choice is, you know what I mean, it has to be Spheal. So
process of elimination. I think Kingambit would at least be useful in the kitchen, useful for slicing the vegetables.
Yep.
For example. But yeah, I think Spheal makes more sense. And just a fun-sized, friend-shaped Pokemon. So Spheal, congratulations, you are Joe's partner Pokemon. And again, one I did not see coming. But now, a different kind of question for you, Joe. If you were a Pokemon, what do you think you would be?
Ooh, that's a good one. Could be any Pokemon.
So it's what you think you'd be most likely to be, rather than what you would want to be.
Oh, okay. What would I be most likely to be? I'm trying to think, because I feel like my answer like 2 years ago would have been different than my answer now. What I'd be most likely to be.
I think a good way in can be thinking about what type you'd be most likely to be. I'm trying to see what jumps out at me for that. I think fairy is kind of jumping out in a way. It kind of represents the journey that you've been on and the compassion that you clearly have.
Yeah, make me a Xerneas then. Make me a Xerneas. That'd be cool. Yeah, because I give life to people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
liven up the room. Yeah, I think that'd be
cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah,
I could definitely see water as well. I could see, I see water and fairy. I could also kind of see grass. Jumpluff kind of works a little bit. Water. I mean, we have a couple of water fairies.
I definitely feel like one strength that I have out of like a lot of the top players or people in the community is I'm able to like make conversations with a lot of people and like have good interactions with them. So I actually definitely feel like a kind of like cheery, happy Pokemon would be a good one, I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna change my answer to I feel like Sfeel is like pretty close to like what I'd be like. Actually, I think that's why it's my favorite, because I feel like he's like very cheery and happy. He just kind of rolls around, like does his thing. You know what I mean? But like you always want to talk to him. You know what I mean? Or you always want to spend time with him. So I feel like actually I'll take. I think Sfeel is pretty reasonable. You know. Maybe I'm a little bit bigger than like a Sfeel would be, though. But you know,
sure. No, I think that's such a charming answer, though. Do you all agree that all the Pokemon Joe would be a Sfeel? Let us know in the comments. We'd be fascinated to read. And speaking of you all, it's now time for your community questions. I posted online as I always do, asking for questions for my guests. Thank you so much for submitting them. I apologise, I won't have time to feature all of them, and if I mispronounce any of your names or handles. But to kick things off, Corian93 would like to know, turning our attentions now to Pokemon Legends ZA, the game that has recently come out, revisiting the Generation 6 games. Your favourite Pokemon to use currently in Pokemon Legends ZA ranked battles?
Ooh, so I will say what feels... Okay, so I'm gonna say what feels the strongest, and so I like using it because it feels really strong. I always win. Is Garchomp. Like, just Garchomp is broken. If I had to pick, like, which one is the most fun to play, I actually feel like I really enjoy playing Ampharos or Glaceon. Probably just because, like, Ampharos, I like the idea of, like, screen, charge, Thunderbolt, and then switch to something, right? Like, I just like how the gameplay loop feels. So I feel like that's, like, probably my favorite in competitive. Also, Ampharos isn't normally very good in competitive, so it's fun to, like, actually see it, like, get some play, right?
Yeah.
So.
For sure, yeah. Let's say is bringing all these new Pokemon to the fore, specifically because there's a different kind of battle system, of course, in those games. Not sort of the mainline competitive games. It's not the VGC that we know, but it's real-time switching, and every move will have a charge time afterwards. And, of course, we've got Mega Evolutions now as well in Pokemon Legends ZA, these temporary final forms that some Pokemon can access that may have different typings, different stats, etc. So, very interesting. Thank you for that, Joe. Now, next question from Bobby CHQ. What does your tournament prep ratio look like? So, you know, it could be team building versus actual practice battles versus anything else you might want to do.
So I think it's changed over time for sure. I would say if you asked me in like 22 or 2019, I'd tell you I play ladder like all day. Nowadays, I'd say it's a little bit different. I think that when I do practice, I try to practice with intention. I think I've gone through the whole range of like practicing, to be honest. I've done like very minimal practice, a lot of practice, kind of in the middle area of practice. If you're asking me right now, by practice, almost like non-existent, but that's just because we're kind of near the end of like, you know, Scarlet and Violet, so I'm pretty like I don't want to force myself to play when I don't feel like playing. So when I'm like trying to make informed team decisions, like I'll play a little bit, like I'll play maybe a couple of games once in a while to like get a feel of like something I want to use maybe. But at least at the current state, because we're playing like regionals and like LAIC, it's not low stakes, but it's like obviously not in champions, which is going to be the world's format. So I feel like a little bit less pressured for it. I still want to make the trip worth it, of course, but I think like the practice is like a bit lower. But when it's like for something like worlds or whatever, like I'll have a spreadsheet, I'll be practicing a ton of different matchups, I'll play multiple tournaments. I mean, for my worlds prep, which I think is the most indicative of me prepping at my best, right? I would wake up at like 7 a.m. I would play a Japanese tournament that they were hosting, 3 rounds of best of 3, open team sheet for 3 hours. I would go for a walk for 2 hours, do my coaching day if I had any coaching, and if I wasn't coaching, I would just play Pokemon, besides going to the gym at like 3:30 to like 5:30, and then come back and then just do Pokemon for the rest of the day, pretty much, or like YouTube, whatever else I was supposed to do. And that's like me prepping at my best, basically. I think like where I'm investing that much time. If we're talking more of like a average, like if it's like regional or something like that, usually I'll hop on ladder, try and get a feel of a team, you know what I mean, like understand it and like whether I want to use it or not. But I think ladder, the main thing is sometimes you're seeing a lot of things that you won't necessarily play in tournament. It's very hard to predict a tournament run nowadays because of just the sheer amount of people that you see, right? So for example, like in my last tournament run that I played in Milwaukee, I didn't play a single Rillaboom. Like that's insane, right? Like to not play a single Rillaboom, which is like 45% usage, right? Like that's ridiculous, right? Like that's like insane. So like anything can happen in your tournament runs. I think what's more important is you feel confident with the pieces you have and that you can play well with them. And that like you're just making sure you're not losing to like everything, right? You don't want to bring a bad team into everything, but if it's like something that you can play well and you understand well, that's pretty good. for sure. I'd say.
Yeah.
But I think it's different for me too, because I feel like I have so much time in the game now. I have really good fundamentals. If you were asking me like how to get better immediately, right? I would just tell you like grind a ton of games, basically with the best teams in the format, so you understand everything, right? Because that's what I had to do. I just had to play like basically thousands and thousands of games to like understand stuff better.
Yeah. Sure. Well, great to get your insight. Thank you very much for that, Joe, and thank you for all of your questions there. If you'd like to submit a question for a future guest on Chazingdra Chats, you can find my handles at Chazingdra across X, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube. That's where I post the call outs for questions for my guests. I'd love to hear what you'd love to hear. All right then, Joe. So we've heard a lot about you up to now, but what's next for you?
So I'm going to be competing in Vegas Regionals and LASC. So my relationship, I've kind of been talking about my relationship with the game. This year, for me, my goal is to prioritize really having a diverse like way of like treating the game in terms of like I'm doing other things other than just playing VGC, I think is really important to me. Like being able to actually like work on my YouTube, develop that, right? Like work on my coaching, like other things like that. But I will say I am planning like once Champions comes around to really just like dive like headfirst into that and really give it my best effort. And as well too, I mean, yeah, these tournaments coming up. Regulation F, to be honest, I'm not the most thrilled about. It's like my least favorite format of all the formats, but I'll give it a shot. I think I only really have Toronto and EUIC to play in it, so it's not that bad. And like I'll do my best to like obviously kind of get centered for it. But yeah, I'm just going to be continuing competing, but I think the way I'm going to be competing, at least mentally, the way I'm going to be approaching it is a little bit different. It's not like all or nothing. It's going to determine everything about my life. Like I still have my fitness I'm working on. I still have my YouTube and other aspects, but it's still important and I want to like manage that. It's just in a different way now, I think.
For sure, and for anyone unfamiliar, Pokemon Champions, the forthcoming competitive focused Pokemon game, and events will be shifting over to playing with that, so we'll see what changes that makes. But it's we're on the cusp of big changes in competitive Pokemon, and that's great to hear, Joe. Now, final question for you. Looking back from now as a successful Pokemon competitor and content creator, all the way back to the young Joe who got that copy of Pokemon Diamond and was enamored, what advice would you give to that younger you?
Don't stop trying. I think don't stop trying is like the best advice you could ever have for any person in any place in the world, regardless of what you're doing, right? As soon as you give up and just like accept whatever situation you're in, there's no room to actually grow or like change. And I think that's just something that any person, like even, I mean, for young me, but like anyone that's younger, right? It's good for that to hear, or good for them to hear that. Like, I think you just need to always push yourself to keep working hard, try and change something if you don't like something about your life, like work hard, you know what I mean? And I think that's really important.
Yeah, wonderful. Very wise indeed. Thank you very much for that, Joe. And the chat does not end there, because now we'll be getting into Joe's Rapidash round, 15 or so minutes of bonus questions that Joe has not prepared for. And as with all my guests, there's so much more I want to take a deeper dive into. More on Pokemon Legends ZA, other games that Joe enjoys playing, what the origins are of this name, JOEUX9, that Joe is rocking, and far more beyond that too. If you want to hang out with me and Joe for a little bit longer, then you become a YouTube channel member, or find the Rapidash rounds individually on my Patreon. And of course, being a YouTube channel member gets you all sorts of other perks as well. But fundamentally, I really appreciate the fact that you've listened to or watched this episode in its entirety. But if you want to hang out with me and Joe for a little bit longer, then the option is available to you. Again, links will be below. But for now, Joe, thank you so much for joining me on the show, and thank you again for your openness and honesty. I know I'm taking a huge amount away from this chat, and I know that everyone watching and listening will too. So thank you.
Oh, happy to be on. It's always nice to be able to talk about it. I think too, what's nice too on podcasts is being able to open up more personally, right? Like you can obviously just talk about your success, you know what I mean, your history or whatever. And like, I don't mind that either. I think both are fine, but it's nice to be able to actually do a deep dive into like what makes someone tick. You know what I mean? I think that's like always the interesting part of like any competitor, any person in any space.
No, for sure. Well, thank you very much for that. And if people want to keep up with you online, where can they find you?
So yeah, JOEUX9 on pretty much every platform, Twitch, YouTube, Twitter as well, or X, I guess is what you call it now. As well too, xacademy.com if you want some coaching, you know, pretty good coach, I'd say. You've been doing it for what now, 4 years? So got a lot of experience there. And yeah, that's mostly it. I mean, obviously, hopefully see me in the Pokemon stream, you know, fingers crossed. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, That's how I first encountered Joe, through Joe's coaching as well. Make sure you're checking out Joe on those platforms. And now, everybody, if you've enjoyed once more, please do like and subscribe. It would mean a huge amount, and drop a comment, because Joe, as with all my guests, has given us so much food for thought. More than 80 episodes of this podcast available now, with a broad range of guests, VGC competitors, as well as competitors in other games, trading card game Go Unite, as well as the casters, and more casual players, shiny hunters, the works. There's bound to be something for everyone. You can use the hashtag 6Pokemon, one life story to spread the word about the show, and also my channel. I stream. There's been a lot of Pokemon Legends ZA recently, but there's competitive, there's more casual play as well, and plenty more content on my channel. My European International Championships video of 2025 is now out, the event from the commentator's perspective. Very pleased to have that out and share a view that we rarely get to hear about in competitive Pokemon, so I hope you enjoy that. I'm at Chazingdra across all socials, X, Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, and of course YouTube. Episodes of this podcast drop every Wednesday, and my Discord community and email address are linked below. With that being said, Joe, it's now time to get into your Rapidash rant. So if you're not joining us over on Patreon for that, or as a YouTube channel member, then it's goodbye from Joe, and it's goodbye from me. See you next time on Chazingdra Chats, where there'll be another 6 Pokemon, 1 life story. And Joe, how are you feeling about these bonus questions?
Feeling good.
Let's dive in. Let's do it. Pokemon Legends ZA. How is your experience doing the competitive scene of that, comparing with VGC? Are you enjoying it as much? I mean, tell us more.
I enjoyed it.